The 1990 film Payback, starring Mel Gibson, had a sort of tepid response at the box office. It did turn a profit, and it has largely been considered just another film in Gibson's filmography. However, years later, in 2006, a director's cut known as the Straight Up Cut was released, and that revitalized interest into this film, and thus two versions exist: Payback and Payback Straight Up. I'm going to talk about them and why there are two film versions to begin with. Hi, I'm Jacob Berry, and this is the Studio Jake vidcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope that you will like this video, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment on what you think, and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 2,500 subscribers, and I just crossed in 1,900, so your support is invaluable. Thank you. This is your spoiler warning. Mel Gibson portrays Porter in Payback. Now, Porter is actually based on another character named Parker from writer Richard Stark. Longtime viewers of Studio Jake know that it is another film based on Parker, which was simply called Parker and starring Jason Statham, that got me kicked off of a movie review site where they put a spotlight on film, and that is why I started Studio Jake. This was way back in 2012. Now, I was unaware of how popular Parker was as a character. There have been many films based on several of his books, and Payback, the 1990 film starring Mel Gibson and directed by Brian Hedlund, was one of them. And like I said, when it hit theaters, it didn't make that big of a splash. Reports were mixed about it, and the box office had a tepid response. It did okay, but not as big as some of Mel Gibson's other films, especially ones that he directed. What people don't realize is that during post-production, Mel Gibson actually fired Brian Hedlund, and this didn't make a lot of sense. For one thing, they both seemed like they would work well together. Mel Gibson coming off high-profile roles like in Lethal Weapon and the Mad Max films, and then Hedlund coming off of LA Confidential. They both seemed like they would work very well together. However, that ended up not being the case. There are rumors and a few reports that suggest early screenings of the film and test audiences didn't like its original vision, and particularly how Mel Gibson portrayed Porter in that version of the movie, because they were so used to his more likable character in Lethal Weapon. In the original version, Porter is a lot less likable. Now, the premise of the movie is pretty much a straight-up revenge heist film. It follows Mel Gibson's Porter as he gets betrayed by his best friend and his wife. His wife thinks that he was cheating on her, and they shoot him and leave him for dead after they steal some ill-gotten gains from a Chinese gang. As a result of this, they think Porter is dead, but he makes his way back, he recovers, and he goes on revenge. He finds his ex-wife, and they have sort of a moment, but then she ends up passing away. I can't really say why, but needless to say, it was self-inflicted. And Mel Gibson goes after his best friend who started all this, and now it turns out his best friend is high up in what is called the outfit, or the company, basically the mafia. Now, where the films diverge is I'll talk about the theatrical version first, because that is the one I watched first. Is Porter is basically more likable. He narrates the film. He is clearly a thief. He steals a guy's credit card and uses it to fund some of his activities that he wants to do, and part of, as far as getting revenge. And also when he confronts his ex-wife, they have more of a touching moment. He is clearly angry at her, and he reveals to her that the photo that was taken was an old photo, and that's what leads to her demise. Also, the Chinese gangsters are aimed at Porter and come after him, and this causes another problem. There's also corrupt cops involved. Not to mention his ex-girlfriend from before he got married. She now has a dog named after him. And where the director's cut diverges is in the confrontation with Porter's ex-wife. He's actually roughs her up a little bit. And supposedly this was a scene in particular that the test audiences didn't like. They thought it was a really bad scene. Also in the film, the poor dog Porter, he gets, shall we say, a bullet, and in the director's cut, the dog does not survive. In the theatrical cut, the dog does survive. And then the conclusions of it are completely different. During the reshoots, Mel Gibson brought on Christopherson to be sort of the final boss. He is in the final climax of the scene where Porter goes to get his money that is owed to him. In the straight up cut, he has a final showdown on the stairwell of a subway station and ends up taking out the leftovers of the gang. And the ending is left up to you to decide if he survived or not. Unlike the theatrical version where he and the ex-girlfriend and the dog sort of drive off into the distance, leaving New York behind. Not to mention, they also changed the color grading, which I will give examples of. The straight up cut looks more sunny and more lively, definitely brighter, whereas the theatrical cut has a blue hue over it that kind of is meant to make it a little bit flatter as opposed to more sunny, I guess. So for a long time, people didn't know that there was another cut of the film. The director definitely said there was. And in 2006, he actually got the opportunity to show it at a private screening. And as a result, later it was released on DVD. And by the way, you can watch both versions of the film. I believe Amazon's Prime Video streaming service has both versions. And I have seen both versions very recently. I usually am of the opinion that you should let the director have his vision. The director is the person who is responsible for making this story happen. He's wrangling the actors, he's working with the cinematographer and the person doing the score. But I have to say, after seeing both of these versions, I kind of agree with Mel Gibson. Now, why did I break from my usual convention? Because everyone knows that I don't like Zack Snyder. I think he's a hack. I think he's a terrible director. But even when the whole release the Snyder cut was going on, I supported that. I was like, yeah, let him get his cut out. It ended up being terrible, which I knew because he's a hack, but it doesn't matter. I still thought his vision should have been able to get out. In that regard, I think Hedgeland's version should have seen the light of day, even if it was just as some sort of DVD bonus or VHS release, whatever it was. I think it should have gotten out. But I actually agree with Mel Gibson. After viewing the straight up cut, I have to say it's not as good. For one thing, if you want to cheer for the bad guy, which is ironic because that is the tagline that was used on the poster for the theatrical cut, get ready to cheer for the bad guy, you have to make him likable. In the straight up cut, he is not likable. You don't want to root for him. He comes off as very gritty and, like I said, sometimes cruel. He lacks a sense of humor and whatnot. In the theatrical cut, the one that Mel Gibson oversaw the edits for, Porter is more likable. He's a bit more charming. He doesn't rough up his ex-wife in that scene. He just kind of tries to help her, but that ultimately doesn't work. And you cheer for him a little bit more in his desire to get his ill-gotten gains. Personally, I don't like movies where there's no good guys. I like movies where there's a straight, this is the protagonist you cheer for, this is the antagonist you want to hate. However, I know heist movies, they're going to be like that, even in revenge thrillers. So I go in knowing this with an open mind. And I have to say, another thing that bothered me about the straight up cut was the score. The score was terrible. It had these really weird jazzy overtures that would interrupt the action. And I'm not saying that the music itself was bad, but it just didn't match the film. The score for the theatrical version was a lot better. It matched what was going on. And ultimately, the conclusion was better. And also the straight up cut was very nihilistic. You don't feel like anything going on really matters, but with the theatrical cut, you feel like the stakes are important. A lot of people later have complained about the narration, which Mel Gibson provides in the theatrical cut, didn't make much sense. I actually think it helped to establish context because in the straight up cut, you're just thrown into the story with no context. At least with the theatrical version, you know what's going on, you know what Porter's motivations are, and I think that is important to the story. Sometimes studio interference is a very bad thing, like with, say, Spider-Man 3 or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Both times Sam Raimi's original vision for the movie got disrupted by nervous studios who didn't want to pull the rug out from the audiences. However, this time, Icon Productions, which is owned by Mel Gibson, who produced Payback, I think they made the right call. I hate to say that because, again, I'm a big supporter of directors getting their visions out there, but this time it was the right thing to do. It didn't match what was going on with the film, and like I said, it made Porter very unlikable, whereas you could cheer for him at least a little bit in the theatrical version. And of course, the dog lives. That's the most important thing about the theatrical version versus the director's cut. If you would like to read my reviews on both cuts, because I have reviews for both versions, I will link them in the pinned comment. They're on my Substack. You can check them out there. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you like Hedgeland's original vision better? Or do you like the more optimistic version in the theatrical cut? I would love to hear what you guys and gals think. Please let me know in the comment section below. But as much controversy as Mel Gibson's career in film behind the camera and in front of the camera have caused, I think this time he made the right decision. The Payback theatrical cut is a better version of this film. I appreciate you tuning in today. If you would be so kind, please be sure to like this video, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment like I said just a moment ago, and don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell to get notifications when I post a new vidcast. If you want to support me in the work that I do, check out my Substack. The link is in the description and also in the pinned comment. You can subscribe at different tiers that unlock different perks. And another way you can support me is checking out my novels. I've got 4 out right now. You can find them at the conveniently titled Buy My Books section where they have their Amazon links. I hope you pick up 1 or all 4 and leave me a 5-star review. It really helps out small indie creators like myself. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.